Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, July the 10th, 2024. It's 9 a.m. Commission Secretary, please call roll. Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. As we move forward with our business today, I have a friendly reminder for all that we are live streaming our open meetings for the public to view from their home or office. If you're speaking, please make sure you speak into the microphone and that the microphone is on so viewers can hear what is being said. For viewers watching online, we encourage you to subscribe to MoDOT's YouTube channel at MoDOT Video for access to these meetings and more. We're going to start our meeting this morning with a brief safety emphasis with Danny Roger, area engineer. He's going to share with us what we need to do in case of an emergency today. Danny?
Good morning. Chairman Wright, Commissioners, Director McKenna, Secretary Harlan, good morning. My name is Danny Rager. I'm the area engineer serving Lake of the Ozarks. And again, the community is certainly happy to host you all today. I have a few but quick and important safety instructions for us. In the event of a fire, the audience and all of us in this room will exit out the doors in the back and meet on the far side of the swimming pool. In the event of severe weather, we're going to exit through these doors and congregate outside at the bottom of the stairs. If we must evacuate this room, please take a moment to note who you are with or who you're sitting next to and make sure they are with us at our desired location. If there's a medical emergency, most of the people in this room are certified in CPR. I will call 911 as well as hotel staff and direct emergency responders to our location at 678 Old Kinderhook Drive. Michelle Watkins has volunteered to administer CPR. There's an AED at my feet at this podium, and Jay Wunderlich has volunteered to retrieve it and administer that if needed. Now that we've discussed how to keep ourselves safe during this meeting today, I want to push a safety topic or an idea that we can all take home today. Lake of the Ozarks next month is going to host a notable event called Bike Fest. With today's weather compared to yesterday, it's much more likely we could encounter a motorcyclist on our way home. A statistic over the last 6 years should be emphasized as much as possible. From 2018 to 2020, the state of Missouri lost about 12 people each year in motorcycle crashes who were not wearing a motorcycle helmet. Since 2020, each year, we've lost nearly 80 people in that same category. Simply put, a motorcycle helmet saved lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Next, I would like to recognize our special guest, Representative Lisa Thomas from Lake Ozark has asked to say a few words, so welcome.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Also glad that you have come to my district to have this meeting. It's very productive, and we're always glad to host any and all meetings at Lake of the Ozarks. So again, thank you. And what I want to do is basically just say thank you for what you already do and to encourage you to continue to have Danny Rager, following Bob Lynch, as your area engineer on our local radio station every week. I think that having a name, a face, a voice for MoDOT in the community, like I said, planned, everyone knows to listen to KRMS at 8:40 in the morning on Monday on Guy Wayman's show to hear the MoDOT update. And it's not just a lecture. It's not just information that's pushed out. It's an interactive kind of a situation. Danny will give updates from MoDOT and then take questions. And he does a fabulous job. Generally already knows either the project being discussed or the area of the lake that's being requested to have some additional attention. And if it's an area that he's not familiar with, he immediately says, we'll get our guys on it. It's clear. He says, we'll get back to you. And he does. So you guys follow through. I think that allays a lot of fears and concerns of citizens here. I think every agency should follow your lead. I think you set the gold standard in how to communicate with the public. And I just really wanted to thank you for doing that and to encourage you never, ever to cut that position from your budget. And as a matter of fact, encourage other state agencies, like I said, to follow what you have put in motion, because I think it's really critical and a wonderful service. So thank you. And I would also like to echo, since getting to hear him this morning, please wear your helmets. And also, if you're going to partake of our waterways, stay afloat, don't drink and boat. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. That's,
Danny.
yeah, that's great. You know, the coffee with the commission and having the opportunity to interact and hear these things is great. And I appreciate you taking the time to come to the open meeting and repeat what we talked about this morning. You know, our area engineers throughout the state are the multi-tool and problem solvers that really play behind the scenes a lot of times and don't get the recognition that other positions do. And we are very, Danny, thank you for what you're doing here locally, and thank our area engineers throughout the state that are doing the little things that make a big difference. You know, the transparency and the open dialogue really makes a big difference. So thank you. All right, moving on. So next, I need to review a few procedural items. Public comment period. I want to remind everybody that we have a public comment period, and we are pleased to offer this to every Missourian that wants to come before the commission to address an issue of concern. Any of you that would like to address the commission, please sign up before 9:30 a.m. A reminder that you will have 5 minutes for public comment or 10 minutes per subject. Abstentions. Next, I will review our abstention process. There are commissioners that, because of land ownership or business interest, or lawyers that may represent clients that have either some relationship to a matter coming before the commission, or may have a potential or actual conflict of interest to be considered or voted upon. The commission member will indicate if he or she chooses to abstain from voting or recuse himself or herself from participating in discussion from an agenda item. If an agenda item is divisible by contract, call, project, or like, a commissioner may specify that particular matter and then still vote on the remainder of the agenda items. This information is provided to the commission secretary by letter in advance of each meeting. The commission secretary will duly indicate the abstentions or recusals accordingly in the minutes of the meeting. Madam Secretary, have the necessary letters been prepared? Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to the agenda items. First item is a consideration of minutes for the regular meeting on June the 5th, 2024, and a special meeting on June the 4th, 2024. Does anybody have any changes or additions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next business item is a consideration of items on the consent agenda. Does anyone need to remove any item for discussion later on or abstain from any item? If not,
No, there was something I did sign on, something to be voting on that impacted an area within a certain distance from my house,
gotcha.
and I did sign a piece of paper that
Perfect.
I'll be abstaining.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Slay. Do we have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next order of business is to receive committee and board reports. I serve on the audit committee along with Commissioner Slay and Commissioner Baker. Today, Commissioner Slay will give the report.
Yes, the audit committee met yesterday, and we received and accepted one internal audit report. A review of right-of-way safety device repairs. The next audit committee meeting is planned for November 2024. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay. All commissioners are members of the legislative committee, and the commission chair and vice chair serve as co-chairs of the legislative committee. Today, Commissioner Erdman will give today's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, following the conclusion of the 2024 session of the Missouri General Assembly, the governor had his annual and heavy responsibility to review and then sign or take action on all bills that would go into effect for the fiscal year 2025. The fiscal year began July 1. On June 28th, the governor announced his actions taken on the operating budget, either by signing bills as passed into law by the legislature or by using his line item veto authority to sign a balanced budget. I'm happy to report that many of MoDOT's original budget requests were approved by the governor with very little change. In addition, the department's budget request primarily funded with a refundable user fee, otherwise known as fuel tax. Several additional items were debated, approved, and funded with general revenue through the legislative process. This is an important thing, and some of those projects include the following. $577.5 million for systematic improvements along I-44, $100 million for low volume and minor roads. This will be the third year in a row that the General Assembly and the governor have approved such funding. Reappropriation of $49 million in general revenues for safety improvement at railroad crossings. There were also numerous other transportation-related projects that were passed by the legislature and funded with general revenue. However, to ensure a balanced budget for the fiscal year, Governor Parson vetoed or withheld funding from several of those earmarked general revenue projects. Those include $1.9 million for the US 50 ramp at Lone Jack, Missouri, $2 million for a Hannibal US 61 bypass, $2.5 million for US 36 upgrades to I-72 engineering study, $10 million withheld from a $48 million earmark on the Route 65 between Buffalo and Warsaw, and $23 million was withheld from a $53 million earmark for expenditures associated with the planning, design, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and repair of I-35, I-29, and US 169 in the Kansas City region. It's been a historic time and a historic year for MoDOT and the Commission in terms of the commitment made by the General Assembly with general revenues and their trust that they place in this organization for infrastructure investment statewide. During his director's report, we'll ask Patrick to make some comments regarding next year's fiscal budget and its impact to the department. Again, these are historic and great times for MoDOT and for public infrastructure all across the state of Missouri. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Commissioner Smith serves as president of the MTFC, and Commissioners Erdman and Baker are board members. Today, Commissioner Smith will provide the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is no report this month. The next MTFC meeting will be in October.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Smith. Commissioners Erdman, Hegeman, and I serve on the Empress Board. Today, Commissioner Erdman will provide the report.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. The Emperor's Board met on June 20th. At this meeting, we welcome Commissioner Hegeman to the board. The annual audit will begin this month in July, and we will look forward to its findings. The board accepted the budget for fiscal year 2025, and we will next meet on September 19th, 2024. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. The last board report is the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety Executive Committee, and I will provide that report. As of Sunday, July 7th, there have been 433 traffic fatalities in Missouri this year. This is 18 less fatalities than the same time period last year, a 4% decrease. The Missouri State Highway Patrol reports 9 traffic fatalities over the 4th of July holiday weekend, which is 6 less than we had last year, so making some improvements there. As we move into the second half of the year, Missouri has an excellent opportunity to keep moving forward and reducing these preventable tragedies. So we want to encourage everyone to keep doing their part to make Missouri's roadways safe for all users. Registration for the 2024 Missouri Highway Safety and Traffic Conference is now open. The conference will be held in Columbia on September 24th through 26th, and the agenda will once again feature a wide array of topics from engineering improvements to educational and enforcement programs. We expect more than 500 participants at this year's events, so please make sure that you reserve your spot today. This concludes my report. Moving on to the third agenda item, the director's report. Patrick?
Thank you,
pass it off
Mr.
to you.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Members of the commission, thanks everyone for being here today. Yeah, as Commissioner Erdman said, historic budget across the board, really. When we look back just a few short years ago, all of our projections with the lack of funding that existed were for worsening conditions in the state. Roadways not being maintained, bridges being closed, and what an amazing move we've made. And I think that, as the commission has said many times, we owe this work to the General Assembly and the governor for their focus. The governor's focus on infrastructure and workforce throughout his tenure has been key for this turnaround, not only within the capital side of our budget, but on the operating side as well. We have made progress. We've, as I've reported many times, over the years, we've been in crisis mode with workforce, and I'm pleased to say that that crisis is over. We are not where we need to be yet, but we have stemmed the outflow of workers. This past year, as was reported yesterday, we have made progress, and we're now below 300 vacancies in the organization. This is a huge move for the organization. It's taken a lot of work. In the last 14 months, we've actually had over 1,100 new employees come in. We've had a lot of retirements as those continue, but net gains month to month, almost every month in the last 14, 15 months have been net gains of employees coming in, which is really encouraging. And a lot of that's the underpinning and the support of the General Assembly, the support of the governor, and the support of this commission, highlighting the work that the department does. And again, I think that as we really look at the progress that's being made, it is really the men and women of MoDOT and the women and men of our construction and engineering industries partnering together to make significant progress. And that results that the public are seeing are feeding some of this desire to continue that investment. And historic investments in general revenue flowing from our unfunded needs processes that the commission asked the department to work on over the last several years. I think it's done a better job of being transparent with the public about the needs of the system that we weren't able to fund. And the public policymakers have responded in kind. It's truly historic. Commissioner Erdman did a great job of kind of highlighting those issues and items that were both approved and some that were pared down in the governor's assessment of the overall budget. I'd just like to add to that over the entire tenure of the budget of this governor and his staff, they have managed the finances of the state of Missouri extremely well. I think a lot of people don't recall that, but when this governor took office, a few months after he took office, the state had to borrow money to make payroll. And he'll be leaving with the work of the General Assembly. He'll be leaving nearly $2 billion on the bottom line for the next governor coming in. It's just good stewardship, and it's good for the citizens of Missouri. But he didn't leave behind a lot of undone business, and he continues that. The investment in I-44 following I-70 last year is truly historic, nearly $600 million. Now, of course, when looking at the entire scale of the budget, hard decisions have to be made. So what came through the legislature was pared down by about $150 million. And there was a legislative language change in the budget that's specific to I-44 that enabled the department and the commission to consider unfunded needs on the I-44 corridor beyond those originally designated in legislative language. And we've worked with the administration, and what you'll see in the STIP is some modification to that, but some project-specific definition. And it's good news. It's good news for the state because there are pavement improvements along I-44 that are not directly related to expansion, but they're really critical needs. And they were unfunded until the governor's action and what the commission will be considering in just a few moments. So by way of thanks, I think on behalf of the department, the commission, it's appropriate to thank the General Assembly and the governor for their historic investments. We are putting them to good use. Our teams are busy. They're engaged, and as you'll see, we're producing results here. So, the first results from that are coming underway. A major highlight of the past month, we had a groundbreaking event for the start of the first I-70 project in Columbia. I want to thank our current commissioners and as well as 7 former commissioners that were able to join the celebration. We've got some items coming up here, but after more than 2 decades, really, I think many would say 3 or 4 decades of talk, discussion, study, evaluation, and ideas to flow, we're finally at the point where we're making this progress and construction's finally here. We've got a short video to highlight the groundbreaking event. If we could run that, please.
On behalf of MoDOT, we sincerely appreciate your presence today for this historic investment of $2.8 billion of state funds for the Improve I-70 program. With this historic investment, we will be adding a 3rd lane of travel to I-70, the eastbound and westbound directions from Blue Springs to Wentzville, Missouri.
As Missourians, we're so blessed to have this MoDOT team, to have a construction industry that are the absolute best in the country at effectively and efficiently executing work and putting it into the ground. Work that all of us benefit from. To the members of the Missouri General Assembly, thank you. Thank you for this generational investment made over the past 3 legislative sessions that will change lives and provide unimaginable opportunity for our next generation of Missourians. This is the same type of generational opportunity our forefathers provided each and every one of us here today, and it's so important that this group did this for us and for the future. Thank you. Thank you again for thinking big. Thank you for investing in our future. His clear and unwavering vision from day one coming into the office for the need of Missouri to have workforce development and infrastructure investment set the path for this historic investment. His clear vision, coupled with his ability to challenge the status quo and to drive action, has brought us to this point today.
When I first become governor, the STIP plan, what we call the STIP plan for the state of Missouri, is our transportation plan for the next 6 or 7 years. It was $2.5 billion, 2.5. The last one I signed was nearly $15 billion for the state of Missouri. And I know today we're here to celebrate I-70, but I will tell you, I'm going to celebrate things all over the state. I'm going to celebrate things like new airports in Columbia, Missouri, Kansas City, Springfield, and St. Louis getting improved. I'm going to celebrate the river ports, the expansions we're making there, the bridge improvements that we're making across this state. And I think as I stand today, over half the roads in the state of Missouri have been refurbished or repaved since I've been governor. And the only way that happens, the only way all those things happen, is you got to have MoDOT helping you every day as governor of the state of Missouri and understanding what your vision is. So I know Patrick's not here today, so I got to give him a little bit of a shout out. He's not here, and I know Ed's here somewhere. Ed, where you at? Ed, where you at? Probably in the background somewhere. Ed, come up here, stand up. You got to take one for the team here. But I want to thank Ed and his engineers for what they do every day across the state. And for all the engineers, all the administration, all the commissioners, but I tell you what, nothing happens in this state without the men and women that wear those vests every day that you see out there on those roads. So don't you think for 1 second, this is about the governor or the administration or the commission. This is about the everyday people that's going to be out there working them roads and risking everything so we can have a better tomorrow in the state of Missouri. So I want to thank all the MoDOT workers that are here today that do it, get it done every day.
Soon, you'll start to see our crews out there working on I-70, around the 70-63 interchange, 54 interchange. You'll see them at day and at night. So please have some patience with us, slow down, buckle up, put your phone down.
Yeah, what a great event. And, it just shows, we've seen that the entire time with the governor. He's been out there as we've done groundbreakings. He was out there before we did groundbreakings to look at, for years, look at the condition of bridges all over the state. He'd go out with our engineers, get dirty, get underneath the bridges, get a sense, and it really crystallized his vision and helped move the state forward. But it's also great to have the work being done at MoDOT. You notice Eric Kapinski is not here. He's busy at work on I-70, and within a year of being funded, construction is starting. It's starting this week on I-70 in Columbia, that first segment. That is worth noting. To put an interstate project together and to go to construction from that funding standpoint, the average across the nation is 3 to 5 years. We did it in less than a year. And so for everyone involved, not only inside MoDOT, but in the private sector that has competed for the work, brought their ingenuity to the table, and are going to bring a great project to the citizens in the middle part of the state, we're really appreciative. I'm appreciative of all of the work that everyone's done. It's truly amazing. And, we're not resting there. The Improve I-70 team is working with competing private sector teams for project number 2, which will add a lane from Route 47 in Warrenton to I-64 in Wentzville. That project will be the largest in the state of Missouri's history, that single project. And again, the private sector coming to the table, competing, bringing their ideas and bringing their talent is a key to this. And the procurement activity using design build where we can is also an innovation that continues to pay dividends for the state of Missouri. But we're not stopping there. We have this exciting work going on, which is generational, but we also need the next generation to come in and work with us. So that excitement of I-70 rippled through. We actually have 110 interns at MoDOT this summer, which is fantastic. So, we're challenging ourselves for the next 7 years on the I-70 project, and we're trying to encourage really bright, young, talented students right now to come join the organization or learn about it through their internship. And this past month, we held the annual intern conference in Jefferson City. So we have interns that work, and believe me, we put them to work. It's interesting because we try to hold an intern conference to give them a great experience, to meet each other, to kind of come through as a class of individuals. And our senior management team members don't want to let them come to the conference because they've put them to work, and they're like, wait a minute, we need these people working all the time. And so I appreciate the fact that everyone modified schedules and enabled this. We had 105 out of the 110 interns attend the conference. They work in a variety of jobs all over the department. We have a lot of work. It's not just engineering, but it's certainly engineering. Engineering areas of bridge design and construction and materials, and also in transportation planning, information systems, financial services, human resources, our chief counsel's office, environmental section, transit in the multimodal division, emergency management, and communications. So we have a broad range of professions within the department, and we're seeing some good engagement on behalf of students. One of the highlights of the conference is the activity to develop a design and construction plan for a fictional location. The interns work in groups to develop their plan and then present it to a mock public meeting. Our team being on the other side of the dais as the public was pretty interesting because they really let the interns have it. And, and I guess they've got that from experience. So but it's a great example of how the conference brings them all together to interact and learn from each other. Members of our leadership share insights with them throughout the conference. And the interaction with our leadership team helps us learn from the students too. What are they looking for in their careers? Helps us shape the positions going forward. And we have a lot of one-on-one conversations. And I have to tell you, if you're concerned about the future, all you have to do is spend a little time with the current students that we're getting access to, and you would not be concerned about that. So the challenge I gave to our team is to make sure that all of these bright interns had job offers before they left this summer, and whether it's to come back as an intern next year or to come and work with us. And so we're working on that right now, and I really appreciate our team that put the conference together. A lot of work goes into that. Our EEO division, our HR division, our recruiters and others made it a great experience. So it's been a big success. We've had over 100 interns now 2 years in a row, and we want to keep that rolling. June was also State Employee Appreciation Month, and the last week of June, the governor held a reception honoring the 2023 state team members of the month and awards of distinction recipients. As you're probably not surprised, MoDOT was heavily recognized in that. The MoDOT team received 3 awards. The safety response team, pictured here, was given the award of distinction for safety for the development of the department's safety response team. Modeled after the success of our department's pandemic response team, the group of MoDOT employees, led by Safety and Emergency Management, developed a safety response focus on tackling multiple safety areas. There are 6 sections within the safety response team, and each is led by a member of our senior management. The team's efforts included a focus on training, work zone, typical applications, updated discipline policies, including accountability and consistency, and streamlining work, and looking for ways to improve security. Some of the major accomplishments have included the implementation of our new Safety Policy 1, allowing employees to stop work if a safety concern exists, and that's in the field, that's in the office, that's anywhere. We're making it very clear that safety resides in the responsibility of each individual, and there's accountability up the chain for that. The implementation of our AVL GPS system, kind of electronic monitoring of our equipment, and the development and implementation of typical applications for every type of work zone, so that employees are trained in the proper way to do any work along our roadways. Those rewrites of the typical applications are critical. They've done a great job to make them easier to read, more understandable, and more relevant to the work that everybody's doing. Our crews go through those every morning, depending on the work that they're doing. And the whole focus of the safety response team is that our management team here at MoDOT wants to be the team that drives employee serious injuries and fatalities out of the organization. You know, as a lot of people don't realize, members of MoDOT over our 100-year history, 139 of our team members have paid the ultimate sacrifice with their lives, given in the service to the public. It's a shocking statistic, and it's one that amplifies the concerns that we have of our employees on the roadways. And the messages, the safety messages earlier, really do resonate with all of us. So, please pay attention on the roadway, buckle up, phone down. There are workers out there all across the state every day. But this team has done tremendous work. This is becoming a national model, and we are presenting this all over the country. And our colleagues are really finding great value to the work that this team's done. This was excellent reward and recognition by the governor, and well-deserved. MoDOT employees also received the Award of Distinction for Heroism. Central District's senior maintenance worker, Ed Randolph, intermediate maintenance worker, Hunter Wisbaum, and former MoDOT employee, Wyatt Thompson, were recognized. Ed and Hunter are pictured here individually with the governor. The men were recognized for their efforts to save a young child and the child's grandmother, who were being attacked by a dog. The men were able to subdue the dog with zip ties to bind its legs, and then contacted emergency services for the child and grandmother. The child was life-flighted to a hospital in Kansas City due to his injuries. And due to our employees' quick actions, that boy has recovered and may not have survived that incident. They were just doing work nearby, heard the calls for help, and responded. The governor's State Team Member of the Month recipients are recognized for providing outstanding service as state team members for the citizens of Missouri. And our Southeast District senior maintenance worker, Les Hall, was recognized as the May 2024 State Team Member of the Month. Earlier this year, Les and his coworkers heard the shouts from a dad and his 5-year-old son trying to prevent a dog from attacking them. Kind of a constant theme here this year, but Les drew the dog's attention to him so the father and son could get to safety, and Les fought off the dog. Law enforcement told the crew that this had been the third call they had received about the animal that morning. The dog bit a customer at a nearby business earlier that day and bit the dad as the attack ensued. They were able to subdue the animal because of the actions of Les. Our MoDOT team continues to step up and make a difference for Missouri. It's really amazing. You know, we have recognized these folks at the commission meetings in the past year, but it's really quite amazing to have that recognition at the state level. There are nearly 50,000 state employees, so it really is quite an honor, and it is reflective of the work, and it's what makes MoDOT such a special agency. So we're really thankful for these efforts. In today's agenda, we have a presentation of the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 statewide transportation improvement program, and we have a record, as I mentioned before, a record level of funding, approximately $14.6 billion, largest in state history, across all modes of transportation over the next 5 years. The STIP has approximately $10.7 billion in road and bridge construction contractor awards, averaging approximately $2.1 billion per year. When I came to MoDOT a little more than 8 years ago, that was $325 million a year. So what progress we've made, and it's really amazing to see this work going on. It wouldn't have been possible without our regional planning partners who helped develop the plan. They do the work. There are Missouri Citizens Transportation Advisory Committees. We have over 1,200 citizen volunteers across the state that come together. They're community leaders. They come together. They care about their communities, their regions, and they express the priorities and the needs of their community. Without that, we would be arguing a lot, I think, at the state level when we got to construction. Because this commission has enabled a bottom-up planning process, and because the state and its leaders have responded all over the state, these are locally authorized and supported projects by the time they get to construction. A lot of other states, when they get to construction, they go to court because communities aren't supportive of the efforts. And that really is rare here in Missouri, almost never happens. The planning partners do an amazing job. I want to thank each of them throughout the state. And delivering this high level of investment is only possible because of the partnership between the MoDOT team and the private sector in design, engineering, and construction. State Transportation Planning Director Lance Taylor is going to share more details in his presentation later in the agenda. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any discussion?
Well, let me just comment and echo the director's endorsement for Missouri's bottoms-up regional planning process. This is really important to our state, and it's hard to appreciate how lucky we are to have it, because we build consensus from the community up, and by the time it gets here, there's buy-in. There have been attempts to change it, and I hope we will fight those off. But once again, here we are. We're going to approve, I think, the largest 5-year capital plan in the state's history. And we can all take comfort in knowing that the communities that it affects were at the beginning of the process. And that's important. Also, congratulations to you and your colleagues for the Governor's Awards. Very proud that MoDOT is richly represented in those Governor's Awards. And also congratulations on recruiting the 110 interns. They are our future. Thank you.
You know, fun fact, Director, if we go back a little over 20 years ago, I was one of those young interns at this conference. So it's amazing to see how well this program's done over time, and it really does. It gives such a big overview of what's out there in the world for these young folks coming out of school or still in school, and I appreciate the team across the state for having patience with the interns and taking the time to teach our next generation of how to carry the torch.
You know, it's nice to be able to say to our team as we're developing the work plans for the interns, how nice we have to be to them, because you never know, they might end up being your chairman someday, right? So,
Understood. Thank you, sir. Next agenda item is action item. Mr. Kenny Voss, State Design Engineer, will present bids. Kenny, floor is yours.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Director. For the June 21st, 2024 bid opening, MoDOT received 49 bids on 15 calls. We recommend the following to do today: to award all calls to the lowest responsive bidder except for call D01 located in the Central District. Call D01 received no bids. We also recommend the Commission award the emergency project let on July 8th of 2024 in the Northwest District to replace the bridge on Route 8 in Adair County that collapsed during high water. These are our recommendations to you today.
Thank you, Kenny. Any discussion? Director, any comments?
well, I'd just like to thank Kenny and the team, Eric Schrader, and for the very rapid response to that circumstance with the bridge. That is no small task. To not only they put an emergency contract in place to have the bridge that was damaged removed, and then this is for replacement. So again, you know, when we have any aspect of our infrastructure that is not functioning, it shows how quickly it can become a problem for the community and the citizens. So rapid response was the right approach, and they did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo that, to see the behind the scenes of how that came about was extremely impressive. So thank you guys for making that happen quickly, because it certainly impacts the folks that use that bridge every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our team is very responsive to those issues. So.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. So do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved. Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Kenny. Do you have a budget update?
Yeah, today's awards are for a total of $61.6 million, which is $6.4 million under budget. Today's awards result in a state fiscal year 2024 awards to date of $61 million, which is a savings of 9.5% under budget on $68 million worth of work. We do not have another planned July letting. Of course, you never know what might happen with all the flooding that we've had recently.
Sure.
But we do have an August letting of about $50 million for 28 projects. We do have some active projects that we're looking at for urgent repair coming up. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Michelle Watkins, Central District Engineer, will provide an overview of the current status of the roads, bridges, projects, and other critical issues in the Central District. So,
Thank you.
floor is yours.
Chairman Boatright, Commissioners, Director McKenna, welcome to the Central District. From the heart of Camdenton, right here in the Lake of the Ozarks. We're really happy to host you here. Just as a little reminder about the Central District, we're comprised of the 18 centermost counties in the state. We serve a population of just a little under 670,000 Missourians. We do so with 559 employees as of the latest count. And we manage about 11,500 lane miles within the district. And time again, Missourians have told us in long-range planning exercises that taking care of what we have is utmost important to them. And we take that very seriously in the Central District. We maintain a 10-year asset management plan that's forward-looking. And we use that plan as we develop our 5-year construction program, and we develop projects that help deliver on the statewide goals. And you can see that we're doing that really well right now. You'll see that our major roadways are just slightly above the statewide goal at 91%. Our minor roadways are just a little bit over the statewide goal at 80.6. And our low volume roadways are our real success story here. We manage them right now at 79.8%. And truthfully, this success is very much due towards two things. One, the governor's rural roads program that invested additional funding in this category of the system, but also your actions in the asset management deficit program from the commission funding allocation formula. Over the last 2 years alone, we've been able to increase the condition of these roadways by 6%. That's pretty significant. And this was a category where we projected to lose ground over the 10-year time frame, and we've gained ground that much. So great work on that front. We also manage our bridges. We have 92 core bridges within the central district, having just under 1,300 bridges total in our district. This is pretty consistent condition-wise with what we've seen in the last several years. The work that we do with our planning partners is invaluable. We have some great planning partners in the region. I'll quickly highlight who they are. We have the Lake of the Ozarks Council of Local Governments that serves this region. We also have the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission that serves the southeastern part of our district, and we have Bidmo Regional Planning Commission that serves the northern counties of our district. In addition to those regional planning commissions, we have a couple of metropolitan planning organizations, specifically the Columbia Area Transportation Study Organization, often called CATSO, and we have the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, often called CAMPO. So these organizations really do the heavy lift in our planning efforts. They bring forward the highest priority needs in the state, and they have to sort, or in our district, in our boundaries, and they have to sort through all of the transportation needs in their regions. Their boards are made up of local elected officials and community leaders, and so are their TACs, their transportation advisory committees. So when they bring forward their highest priorities, that really helps us start in the right place to be sure that the projects that we move forward with are ones that don't just meet statewide needs, but local needs also. Those efforts are ones that produce a couple of very important documents. First, when they prioritize needs, we all come together, MoDOT and them collectively, and we go through each of those needs. We prioritize them together, and we produce the high priority unfunded needs list, a critical document in our planning efforts. And then we use that list along with, as I talked about, the asset management plan to develop our 5-year construction program. And collectively, we work with them to prioritize the projects that move forward in that 5-year construction program also. So we get a lot of bang for their efforts there, and we certainly are appreciative of all the work that they do with us and those activities. So I'd like to highlight some of the exciting projects that have moved forward from that process, and I'll begin with the work that's underway in the district. You heard the director talk about the first project within the Improve I-70 program. Work begins this week, and in addition to providing an additional lane of travel on Interstate 70 between Kingdom City and Columbia, there are some pavement improvements that are associated with it and interchange improvements along with operational improvements. So we're really excited to have that work underway. Also on Interstate 70, we have the Lance Corporal Leon DeRapp's Missouri River Bridge near Roseport that is well underway. You can see here that the westbound bridge is complete. Eastbound is well underway, finalizing some of the last placement of girders and deck pours. That project is on schedule to be completed by the end of the year as promised. That project being a $218 million contract award. We are also nearing completion of our Interstate 44 rehabilitation project in Phelps County. This includes quite a bit of work in the price tag of a $50.4 million contract award that includes pavement rebuild and roadway improvements on Interstate 44 between Rolla and St. James. It also includes 28 miles of resurfacing from Sugar Tree Road to the end of Route F. It includes several bridge rehabilitations there and culvert extensions. The pavement has been completed there so that the concrete paving that's been underway is complete. The barriers have been pulled, channelizers put in place, and as that pavement gains enough strength, it's being moved over and traffic is moving towards it. And we'll be completing the last parts of that project over the end of this construction season. So we're excited to see projects on that also. We have some significant improvements underway on US 54 north of the Missouri River Bridge, just north of Jefferson City, from there all the way through to Kingdom City. This project and the work associated with the projects in this region total $24.4 million. It includes the addition of a lane just north of the River Bridge to Route 63. It includes resurfacing from the bridge through up to Kingdom City Interchange. It includes some bridge rehabilitation along the way and intersection improvement at Old Jefferson City Road. So a lot of great work underway in that area. I would like to also point out that we have a project underway that'll be impactful to the region just south of that same bridge. That work has begun this week. And traffic impacts will begin next week. Here we'll be narrowing the roadways to one lane, and we'll be doing a lane shift. So in that first phase, the westbound traffic will be moving over to the eastbound side while we perform some very needed bridge rehabilitation work. We've had extensive public outreach, letting individuals know in the region, but also outside of the region, realizing how much travel takes place to the area that we're in now, right? So it's been very important to us to be sure that there are no surprises to our customers on that front. And those roadways will remain open. They're just reduced to one lane. We also have intersections improvement in Morgan County at Route 52 and 5 and W within the city of Versailles. We'll be putting in a new roundabout in that location and having some traffic flow improvements and safety improvements that are associated with that work. And I think just as important, but often overlooked, is sort of the bread and butter of what we do on the rehabilitation side of the business. We have 367 miles of roadway resurfacing that totals a little over $82 million underway. We have 160 miles of Governor Rural Roads resurfacing totaling $17 million underway. In addition, we have 270 miles of seal coats that are a little over $9 million and 22 bridge rehabilitation and 2 bridge replacements that are underway, all within the Central District. So a lot of work going on, much needed work that's important to our rural communities also. MoDOT forces performed some significant work within the Central District boundaries also. We've completed 50 centerline miles of what we often call a scratch and seal roadway treatment, and that is we level off the roadway with a very thin layer of asphalt and seal that to provide a better traveling surface for the road users. In addition, our forces will be completing 159 centerline miles of sealed coat treatments yet this year. So quite a substantial amount of work by our forces also. In addition to the work that's underway, we have some additional exciting projects that are in the development. Again, high priority unfunded needs that have moved forward and into our program. The first that you'll see here is the Route 63 alignment from US 50 to the other side of Westphalia. This work is planned to be awarded in 2027 with a program estimate of a little over $84 million. We're currently finishing up the environmental work associated with this realignment. We also have improvements on the interchange of Route AC in Columbia at Route 63. These improvements are primarily on the east side of the interchange. They include some widening in that location, some intersection improvements, and an additional loop ramp that will address a lot of the congestion that takes place in one of the most congested interchanges within the city of Columbia. We also have something that'll be of interest to folks who are from this region in particular. We have a widening project on Route 54 in Camdenton from basically the business Route 5 intersection all the way to the city limits on the western side of 54. That'll be widened to a 5-lane section, and that work is expected to take place in 2026 at a price tag of about a little over $9 million contract award. Certainly, our efforts focus on making the most of the system that we have, and we've made some recent operational improvements that I think will be important in this region too, specifically to the traffic signals at the interchange of Route 5 and 54. We've adjusted that timing with some of the traffic changes that have taken place. There's always a balance between the traffic flow that takes place on the main line of 54 and having tolerable wait periods for those side streets. And we've made some adjustments that we think are very noticeable in terms of how traffic flows on 54 over the last couple of months.
Michelle, since we're in Camdenton,
Yes.
I want to thank the team, everyone for working on this, the one that we're talking about right now at the Highway 554. Clearly the biggest issue in Camdenton. We talked about it at breakfast quite a lot. I know there's some efforts underway to maybe look at redesigning how the move from westbound 54 to northbound 5 will take place. And just want to encourage you and the whole team to really focus on that because it is definitely of local concern.
Certainly, and that's one of the locations that we want to be sure that we discuss and prioritize through our high priority unfunded needs list discussions, both from the regional planning partner, but sharing that with the other partners within our boundaries and the district staff moving forward.
Maybe even cost share.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I do want to move on at this point and talk a little bit about recruitment and outreach. We've had a lot of success on this front of late, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the results, but I want to give credit where credit is due. We believe that the advances that we've been able to make on this front is greatly impacted by your actions and implementing a market rate plan. That really is the baseline for being able to attract talent to the organization, and we can see that it's made a difference in the terms of our ability to hire qualified staff. I'd like to point out that we go about this in a number of different ways. And over the last year, under the leadership of our human resources manager, Chrissy Johnson, that's here, her staff, but also all of the supervisors in the district who have participated in the events that I'm going to talk about. It really is a lot of a resource drain to the work that they do, but they know that hiring qualified individuals is an important part of what we do, and they have really made the investment to make this happen. We've had 3 hiring events over the last year where we've actually conducted interviews for multiple positions in the organizations. We're able to make offers in some cases right on the spot to move forward. But we've also had 3 community career fairs, 4 college career fairs, 3 high school career fairs, and 2 Jobs for American Graduate program presentations that have been done, all in an effort to reach out to and to recruit new talent, both those individuals who could work with us in the more immediate time frame, but also looking forward and planting seeds for individuals who might consider MoDOT now, who might not have otherwise done so. They might not be in the market right away in high school, but they aren't far from that. And so we want to be sure that we've outreached to those individuals too. The results are that we've been able to hire an additional 100 individuals in the Central District over the last year, which is quite a heavy lift. And we can really feel it in the levels of being able to produce results in the organization. So we're incredibly thankful for your actions that helped make that take place. Another effort on the front of planting the seed, this one's a little further out in some cases, are our efforts on the STEM outreach. You know, with large projects like our Rocheport Bridge replacement project, we have an element that provides for STEM outreach and providing a program that's related to engineering and careers within the construction sector that's targeted for elementary school levels, a separate program for middle school, and that for upper level high schools. And that actually helps teachers give people or give their students an idea of what engineers do, what types of careers are available in the construction industry, and helps them see themselves in ways they might not have seen before and consider opportunities that might not have seemed reachable to them before. So we've had a lot of success on that front too. So that highlights some of the projects and work underway and recent successes. I'd like to open up to any questions that you might have.
Great presentation.
Chairman,
Thank you.
Not a question, but thank you for your presentation today. Boy, a lot going on in the Central District from I-70 to I-44 and everywhere in between. And congratulations on getting 100 new hires.
Exactly.
That's great. So how many did you have at those deals?
I didn't hear that. How many?
How many did you have applying for jobs?
You know, I don't think I quantified it in that way, but we have, I would say in the last probably 6 months, we've seen a great uptick in the qualified applicant pools that we have. And that's made a significant difference to really qualified individuals who come in with the right kind of core values.
That's great. Anyway, congratulations. Who wouldn't want to live at the lake?
Right.
Right, Warren?
Right.
Director?
Director?
Thank you. Michelle, thank you to you and your entire team. But I just want to thank, for those that are thinking about careers at MoDOT, I think Michelle's a great example. Having spent 14 years as our transportation planning director, did an outstanding job. The outreach to the planning partners, that is such a factor in the very fabric of this historic plan. She really mentored and brought a lot of people up in planning, as will be evidenced in just a few minutes with Lance. But to step out of what was maybe a comfortable role at a point in her career and take on a significant challenge. I just remember talking to Michelle, and she said she just wanted to be out in the field and wanted to really feel engaged as an engineer again, and to work through, to work the whole management challenge of kind of a mini DOT in a very large district. And what timing for us to be able to take that on. So I just wanted to recognize Michelle for her efforts and for taking risk in her career. Boy, that's paid off for the state, for the region, and for the department. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, but I am so very grateful to work for an organization that has opportunities like that invested in me in that way. And I say this without reservation. I look forward to what I do each and every day. I get to work with a fabulous team, and it's such a rewarding job.
That's wonderful.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hageman.
Thank you. Michelle, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for addressing the high-profile projects here in central Missouri. But I most particularly want to appreciate and thank you for turning your attention to the low-volume roads as well and taking care of our
very happy
rural
to do
friends
that.
and neighbors out there. So thank you very much for engaging with that wholeheartedly, it seems like. So thank you.
Michelle, thank you again. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Brian Hartnagel, State Bridge Engineer, will provide an overview of the responsibilities and accomplishments of the Bridge Division. Brian, floor is yours.
All right. Chairman Boatwright, Commissioners, Director McKenna, Madam Secretary, thank you for the opportunity. Oh, there it is. Thank you for the opportunity to give the annual update on the condition of the state bridges and what the Bridge Division does for the organization. I'll start off with presenting the National Bridge Inventory Map, and this is based on our submittal to the Federal Highway. Every March, as March 15th, we're required to submit, as all states are, the National Bridge Inventory, and we typically do that on the Friday before March 15th. This year, the point in time, we had 10,392 bridges on the state system, and they're shown here on the map. If we look at the poor condition bridges, we're making great advances on this. We have 759 poor condition bridges, and you'll note that they are scattered throughout the state. Here's the good news. This number has been decreasing steadily, and the reason for these things are all the governor's focus on bridge program that we've talked about before, the bridge bundling that we've been doing, the Farm Bridge, the Boot Heel Bridge bundles, bridge bundles in the Southwest District. Underway, we have the Northwest Bridge bundle going on. So all of these things have helped us to reduce the number of poor condition bridges. Our asset management goal is to keep this number under 900, and as you can see, we've done a good job of doing that and reducing those. Over the last 5 years, the average number added is 94, and the average number removed is 124. So it's a constant revolving number, but we're adding less than we're removing, and that's how we're getting the reduction there. Why are we adding more poor condition bridges? This is really the wave graph that we call it. But about 51% of our bridges are older than their 50-year intended life, those that are built prior to 1970. This number, the number that was prior to 1970 over the last year has been reduced by 92. So we are, again, with all these bridge focused programs and design build efforts, we are taking away those structures that were built prior to 1970. Weight restricted bridges are also a concern of ours, and we have 869 weight restricted bridges. Why is this a concern? This limits the movement of goods and things like that. When you have posted bridges that restrict truck traffic or movement of commerce. Again, we are making some progress on this, 869 as of the March submittal to the National Bridge Inventory. In 2014, if you go back 10 years, the number of weight restricted bridges was 1,367. So again, good progress on that topic. If you look at the Venn diagram here, 759 poor bridges, 869, 273 are on both lists there. So how do we classify bridges? We call them either typical or major. A typical bridge is those under 1,000 feet long, and we have 10,183. And major bridges are over 1,000 feet long, and we have 209. And you go, well, what's the distinction? The distinction is the major bridge money to address those bridges over 1,000 feet come off the top of the funding distribution that Mr. Taylor is going to talk about a little bit later here. Looking at the pictures here, on the bottom left, you see the Chester Bridge. This is from the Illinois side, looking to the Missouri side. You see Tower 4 over there, Pier 4. That is a major bridge that's under replacement. And on the right are just a couple typical bridges. These are Business Loop 60 over the Black River and Railroad there in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. 209 major bridges. You can see that many of them are on the major rivers in the state. We have the Missouri River and the Mississippi River. 51 of those bridges span either of those rivers. And as you know, we share many of those with other states. We share some with Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, Tennessee, and also there are some on the western side of the Boot Heel that we share with Arkansas, 4 bridges. This number of major bridges went from 204 in 2022 to 211 last year because we added 7 when the commission awarded the Rocheport Bridge, the Buck O'Neill Bridge, and the Long Creek Bridge over Table Rock Lake. 4 bridges at Buck O'Neill, 2 at Roachport, and 1 at Long Creek. And it went back down to 209 when we took off Roachport and Buck O'Neill, because once they're closed, we take them off the inventory. So when we're talking about the funded major bridge replacements, we have Route 291. We call this Liberty Bend over the Missouri River in Kansas City. This is currently scheduled in the STIP for 2026. Route 29, north and south viaduct approaches to the KC Icon Bridge in Kansas City. Liberty Bend is shown on the left, and the approaches to the KC Icon Bridge is shown on the right there. Those are in schedule for 2028. And also in 2028, Route 92, Centennial Bridge over the Missouri River in Kansas City. This is a payment project to Kansas City. Kansas City is the lead, or I mean, Kansas State is the lead state on the Centennial Bridge. Moving on.
Right, could we go back?
Sure.
To the 2 railroad viaducts on the north and south side of the Kit Bond Bridge?
Yes.
Have those been moved back? At one time, there was some concern about, I recall they were going to schedule for 2026, and I see they're 2028 now.
There was a rehab project that was scheduled to rehab those structures, and I think that was in the 2026 timeframe. We had consultants look at that, and we came to the conclusion that probably the best thing to do is, because they were cobbled on, widened, and added on to, we came to the conclusion that the best thing to do was replace them, because we were going to pay probably 75% of the replacement cost to do the rehab. And so we did move that back a little bit to allow engineering time and all the environmental studies and dealing with the railroads. As you note, on one side there's 5 railroads, and the other side there's 4 railroads, as you very well know. But yes, those initially it was a rehab project, and then we came to the conclusion that rather than to throw money at a rehab that maybe give us 30 years, let's do a replacement.
So would I be right to assume that absent an emergency or something, that there would be no traffic disruption for that project until 2028?
Yes.
Well, the people know the World Cup is coming in 2026, and that project had caused a lot of apprehension. Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
That's something that I wasn't aware of as far as the World Cup. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know that it had.
What would be the south side of the river and the west side of the bridge, which shows trees there, that is now CPKC Stadium.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
that
soccer
is
stadium there.
CPKC Stadium
Yes.
today. Which they have, by the way, MoDOT's done a tremendous job managing the traffic for that. Lots of accolades about that.
Good. All right, so what major bridges do we have that are not in the STIP yet? And if we could just go down through the list, Route 160 over Bolshoes Lake and Southwest. That's the picture on the very bottom left. We call that Theodosia. That's currently we're planning for 2029 on that. Route 229 is the double decker in St. Joseph. The plan is to remove it. For those of you who are familiar, the plan was to rehab it, then became removed. Then city administration said, let's keep it. They're out of office, and now it's back to remove. So that one has been pushed back. Commissioner Hageman is fully aware of what's going on there. Route 24 over the Mississippi River in the Northeast District. We call this one Quincy Memorial. Illinois is the lead state on that, and their plan is to start that in 2029, and our payment would be to them in 2030. And then in the center there, we see Brownville Bridge, Route 136 over the Missouri River. This we share with Nebraska. We're the lead state on this one in 2031. And then lastly, on the bottom right there, you see Martin Luther King over the Mississippi in St. Louis, and we're hoping to get that in 2032. All right, so I want to talk a little bit, that's the condition of the bridges and what's going on. I want to talk a little bit about the bridge division. We're separated into two sections that we call, the first one that I'll talk about is the bridge management section. And they do the inspection, under bridge inspection. We do about 1,000 bridges every 2 years with the snooper trucks or under bridge inspection units. It's the big truck with the arm that puts the people in the bucket under the bridge. We have a federal requirement to do those every 24 months. And so we do about 500 a year that require that type of inspection vehicle. The rest of the bridges are inspected on that same 2-year schedule. Primarily district personnel do that. The district bridge engineer, Central District Bridge Engineer Derek Lepper is here, and others. But the routine type stuff is handled by the districts, the inspections. The National Bridge Inventory I already mentioned. We submit that to Federal Highway Administration by March 15th every year. Load rating and permitting. I show a couple vehicles here of what we call super loads. A super load is any vehicle that's over 160,000 pounds or has over dimensions that require routing or special permitting. The chart on the bottom there is the number of super load permits that our division handles. And again, this is important because these movements of these large loads are commercial economic opportunities for the state, and we want that to make the most efficient route without damaging bridges or so on. But if you look at the bottom, well, in 2020 you see the most. We're doing almost 3,700 superload permits, 307 a month, and you wonder what happened there. That we were building lots of wind farms in the north part of the state, and each wind tower is probably 8 or 10 loads, several tower segments, 3 blades, the generator, and so on. And 2021 also had some of that. If you add June's totals of 239, you get the monthly average up to about 215. So it's our third highest monthly average and probably going to be our third highest projection for yearly total. So that's an important thing. We work with our motor carriers division exclusively on this. And then lastly, I say local public agency. The bridge management section handles the federal programs that provide money for local public agency to replace bridges and things. The other part of our division is our program delivery, and that's focused on our customers, the districts like Mrs. Watkins and the other 6 districts throughout the state. We produce plans for monthly lettings. Start off with preliminary and hydraulic design. If you look on the bottom right there, this is just a typical bridge 3-span structure that we designed. And this was in the May letting and awarded by the commission last month. This is in Pemiscot County. It's just a typical 3-span over a stream. And preliminary and hydraulic design is the first phase.
That's definitely not a stream. That's a ditch.
Okay. You know best, right? Any ditch or river, they're all some sort of stream, but yes. The first thing you got to do is size the bridge to let the floodwaters go under it, right? And we're experiencing that throughout. And you also approved a bridge that got wiped out by a flood just a couple of months ago. So plans production review. We review the plans from our own internal staff and also our consultants that do work for us. Our development section is a group of people that basically keep up the policy and make sure we're following AASHTO and all of that stuff. The liaisons, they're the ones that hire consultants to do some of the work for us. And then we do fabrication inspection. And the picture on the bottom left here is interesting because our fabrication inspector, senior fabrication inspector, Leonard Foster, this is taken in Palatka, Florida. Okay. He travels nationwide, and this the thing you see there is a tower box for the Chester Bridge. Okay. And the gentleman in the box there is finishing the surface where the cables will be anchored. to hold up the roadway. So anyhow.
That's cool.
Program delivery, this is a little bit of what we do in-house. You can see FY 22, 23, and 24. We do about $40 to $60 million worth of bridge work a year with our in-house staff. It's off a little bit this year. We've had some retirements. We've got a fairly young staff that's thankful to the commission's action. We're able to hire a bunch of people. We've had some retirements and so on, but you'll notice we did 17 new structures in FY 24, which is a high for the last 3. The rehabs are a little lower than what we've done in the past. Repainting is a preventive maintenance type of activity and so on. So about $40 million from FY 24. If you look at the bridge program that Mr. Taylor is going to tell us about in just a moment, STIP fiscal years from 25 to 29, there's 1,309 bridge projects in that 5-year. It's about $2 billion there, so $400 million a year. And again, listening to the director, when we had $325 million, we might have been only doing $70 million worth of bridge work a year. So we're talking about almost $400 million a year. 1.1 billion for typical bridges and 873 million for the major bridges. And the pie chart there, about 50% of them are replacement, 35 rehab, and the balance is redeck and preventative maintenance. So here, we've already heard Ms. Watkins talk about the Roachport Bridge. The picture on the left was taken on June 13th of this year. The river is quite high right now, and I don't think there's much activity going on in the river, but they are doing the deck casting and so on from the west side. And this is a little short video here. I hope it plays. So that took place on September 10th of 2023 and officially removed a poor condition bridge there. Obviously, it was closed a couple months earlier than that, but that was the demolition of the main span, 6,000 pounds of steel recycled in one shot there. There's 6 million pounds of steel, not 6,000.
Yeah, 6,000. That's, I showed that video. I was presenting in Ireland earlier this year, and the shock of the people from Europe. I said, we had a sounding device that alerted the birds before the bridge went down. There were no birds harmed in that bridge destruction. So,
well, that's what you told them.
That's what I told them.
As the director mentioned, there was a pre-shot blast supposed to make the fish go away and the birds go away. I think at a 2-minute warning or something like that. And the birds, they left and they flew back and landed back on there. And then when I went to, look at the wreckage on the ground, there were some concussed pigeons that were kind of just mumbling around there. And so, but
did you apply CPR? Okay.
I did not. But so the next big bridge construction I already alluded to is the Chester Bridge. You saw a picture of that from the Illinois side. This is from the Missouri side. We have project cameras for all of these you can access on our website. But you look at the Missouri River at Chester there. This is May 1. You'll notice that large peak there. It went from about 15 feet stage to 32 feet. And there's another short video here. So in about 12 hours, their site got inundated. Pier 5 is out in the middle of the river there. And the coffer dam suffered a little bit of damage there. They did get to start work out there again, but as you're aware, the Mississippi River is cresting again, and it's actually, it's about 33 feet now and expected to crest at 35, so maybe 3 feet higher than what you see here. Buck O'Neill Bridge, this is in Kansas City. This picture was taken just before the last arch was demolished, and that was on June 18th. So that arch there is no longer, again, removing one of the poor condition major bridges there. The northbound traffic is now on the southbound structure. They had to remove the existing bridge to make the last tie-ins of the final northbound structure. In May, at the May Commission meeting, we celebrated the governor's Focus on Bridge program, the completion of that, 250 bridges awarded and completed. On the left here, you see Blue Ridge Boulevard over I-70, Jackson County. This was the last one, opened on December 19th, 2023. Pemiscot County Route A over Drainage Ditch 72 is just one of the routine kind of bridges that was in that 250 program. So, lastly, I want to mention last year in 2023, we hosted the AASHTO Committee on Bridges and Structures, where all 50 state bridge engineers come to town in Kansas City. This year, we hosted the Missouri Bridge Conference in Columbia. We do this Missouri Bridge Conference every other year, even years. We had about 165 attendees here. You'll see on the bottom left, James Flum, Project Director for Buck O'Neill, is talking about the Buck O'Neill Bridge. And then on the right, we have Deputy Project Director Benji Philpott and Instructional Liaison Engineer Stacy McMillan talking about the Chester Bridge project to that. But it's a good mix of consultants, local people, MoDOT people to talk about bridges. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions that you may have.
Any discussion, question, comments?
Chairman,
Commissioner Slay?
Just want to make a comment and thank you so much and your team for all the work you do. I've learned a lot about the extent, although I have a lot more to learn, of the infrastructure challenges that this organization manages day in and day out, and the very, very important public safety aspect of what you all do. This presentation was even an eye-opener for me in terms of the number of bridges, what it takes to get it done, and all the work that's done to prepare the public and to get all the work done and have it a part of the transportation infrastructure. I've learned a lot more about how truly extensive the infrastructure is that this organization manages, and it's incredible. You and your team deserve a great deal of congratulations and thanks. And I'm continually impressed by the talent and the leadership within the organization. So thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, you bring up, if I may, bring up a great point there about public safety. You've probably seen some unplanned bridge closures, and thankfully we have the support of the director and all. If our people are out there and they see something that's of a concern, they have the authority to shut the bridge down and then discuss with us later. And the most recent one was up in the Northwest District, and we said that's the right thing to do, and thankfully that they did it. So unfortunately, we're usually about a year too late. These are into STIP, and we know they're in need, but we're getting the full life out of the structure. We're not replacing it too soon.
No doubt.
Anyhow, thank you for that comment, Commissioner Slay.
Commissioner Hageman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Brian, I too want to thank you for you and your division, all the work they do out there, taking care of the critical infrastructure we have out there. The bridges, it seems like we've been working on bridges, and focusing on bridges for a long time. And it's great to see us gaining on it.
We are making progress,
and making
yes.
some improvements. I also wanted to thank you, quite honestly, the whole department. The changes that you made to the BRO program a few years back,
Yes,
the county
absolutely.
still seemed to be very appreciative of that effort and those changes that were done there. That's a very important program to many of the counties throughout the state. And you kind of, you talked over a little bit, but it really is a very important program. That local bridge effort program that you work with the counties on is very important too.
I appreciate that comment
and really appreciate it.
Chief Engineer, Deputy Director here gives us a quick timeline.
Yep, no,
And
I
so-
understand, but
But Yes.
It's a
that-
very
that-
valuable program.
Yes, and
for
we're
the-
getting a lot more. We have 14,100 local bridges that we're in charge of submitting to the federal highway. And we want to get as many of those poor condition ones off the system. And the old way of doing it was each county got some money and they only never got enough money to really
Right.
do anything. And we regionalized that, similar to what we do with the planning partners for the STIP. And they bring their priorities and we're getting stuff done. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I
good point.
think it's great appreciated and very valuable to the state in that regard as well. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
All right, I'll pass that on.
So Brian, to brag on you a little bit, we've got a lot of great leaders within the organization. And, Brian, not only, just so the commission knows and the folks in the audience knows, I mean, Brian's not only a leader at the Missouri level, but this guy is a globally known in his field. So we're very fortunate to have you here in Missouri and appreciate the work that you and your team do. So thank you, Brian.
I appreciate that.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Brenda Morris, Chief Financial Officer, will provide an overview of the debt management report.
Good morning, Chairman,
morning.
Commissioners, Director McKenna. Today, I'm going to provide you an overview of the Commission's bonding program. On an annual basis in July, the Financial Services Division prepares a debt management report that shares the current status of the Commission's bonding program. This year, given the number of newer commissioners, we thought we would walk you through that information. Bond financing allows MoDOT to provide much-needed infrastructure improvements to the traveling public sooner and/or with multi-year commitment to contracts than pay-as-you-go funding allows. Building projects sooner results in cost savings by reducing project inflation costs, while at the same time advancing economic development, improving safety, and easing congestion. Multi-year financial commitments to construction contracts reduces risk to industry partners. Bond financing has allowed the Commission and the Department to deliver some larger projects that otherwise would have been difficult to complete. The Commission's first bond issuance to construct public roads occurred in the 1920s, authorized through a constitutional amendment by a vote of the people. Several other bond issuances occurred after that, again authorized through a constitutional amendment by the vote of the citizens of Missouri. These bonds were issued by the General Assembly. In 1993 and again in 2000, the General Assembly passed legislation giving the Commission authority to issue its own state road bonds. This did not require a vote of the people because the state road bonds are not a liability of the state. In November of 2004, when Amendment 3 was voter approved as a constitutional amendment, the citizens included in Article 4 of the Missouri Constitution additional express authority for the Commission to issue debt in order to finance state highway system construction and reconstruction projects. In addition, Amendment 3 also redirected a portion of the motor vehicle sales tax that previously was deposited into the General Revenue Fund into a newly created state road bond fund. The intent of this fund was that the revenue deposited would be used to solely pay authorized debt service. To frame the actions taken by the Commission has in its policy established a debt management policy. The Commission's debt management policy is considered a conservative one. The policy indicates the criteria that must be met prior to the issuance of debt. It speaks to the duration of debt and the opportunities to issue debt. By limiting debt duration to reflect asset life, this aligns the liability with the asset, so when the asset is used up, the liability is gone. Limiting debt duration also helps to define those opportunities to bond to fund significant projects in the future and injects fiscal discipline of paying principal throughout repayment to assure the issuers of debt are also the payers of principal. The focus is to ensure that we are able to preserve the existing system through asset management and continue to be able to operate and maintain the system. The policy spells out that the Commission can issue debt when a revenue source is provided to make debt service payments, not unlike Amendment 3 or when general revenue is provided for debt service like the Focus on Bridge program. All other debt is limited to 5% of total revenue less Amendment 3 revenues. The debt management policy, debt service coverage is more restrictive than the indentures for the various debt programs. Again, this speaks to the conservative nature. The policy also sets targets for refunding savings, which indicates the return we would need to get if we refinanced our debt when a refinancing was actually eligible. Currently, the Commission has 3 bonding programs. Amendment 3 bonds with a first, second, and third lien, federal reimbursement state road bonds, and state appropriation mega project state road bonds. This chart shows how the revenues match up to these various programs. So we start with state road funds, which include the motor fuel tax, the motor vehicle sales tax, and the motor vehicle and driver's licensing fees. And we add to it the state appropriations revenue for the Focus on Bridges program. We then add to it the state road bond fund revenues. That's that portion of the motor vehicle sales tax that got redirected from the general revenue fund. All of these revenues are first used to pay Amendment 3 bonds, which includes the Focus on Bridge program bonds. We then add the federal reimbursement revenues, and these revenues, along with the remainder not needed for Amendment 3 bonds, is used to pay the federal reimbursement state road bonds. The last program is the state appropriations mega project state road bonds. This program is specifically created for those times when the governor or general assembly appropriates state revenues for specific projects like the Improve I-70 program. The first lien will be on the state appropriations, and a subordinate lien will be on the excess revenue not needed for other debt service. The last subordinate lien is the state infrastructure bank loan, which means the bonds will be paid first prior to the loan. This loan was part of the financing for the Rocheport Bridge Mineola Hill project on I-70. Between 2005 and 2024, the Commission issued a little over $4 billion of bonds through its various programs. The Commission borrowed $2.7 billion through 9 series of Amendment 3 bonds. In addition, the Focus on Bridges bond issuance of $267.4 million to get proceeds of $301 million was also issued under the Amendment 3 liens, although the repayment source for that debt is general revenue. From 2008 to 2010, 3 other major projects utilized debt financing: the new I-64 in St. Louis, the Safe and Sound Bridge Improvement Program, and the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge in St. Louis. The Commission used federal reimbursement bonds, or GARVI bonds, which stands for Grant Anticipation Revenue Vehicle Bonds, which is debt used to finance federal transportation improvements to pay for all or a portion of the projects and backed by federal reimbursement. The Commission borrowed a total of $928 million through 5 federal reimbursement bond series. Lastly, last fall, the Commission approved the creation of a new lien, the State Appropriations Mega Project Bonds. The Commission borrowed $381.6 million in December of 2023 under this program for the Improve I-70 program. The Commission has borrowed funds using various types of bonds. Most have been tax-exempt fixed-rate bonds. The Commission has utilized Build America bonds, which were sold as fixed-rate taxable bonds that received an interest subsidy from the U.S. Treasury. These were issued because they had a lower net interest rate than the tax-exempt bonds at the time of issuance. The Commission in the past has also used variable rate debt, but that was paid off in 2015, and currently the Commission does not have any. The slide summarizes the bonds that are currently outstanding, which is $1.5 billion. We'll pay debt service in the amount of $445.3 million in fiscal year 2025, with $378.1 million being principal. $181.2 million of the $445.3 million will be paid from general revenue funds. The remainder will be paid from the revenues from highway user fees and federal reimbursement deposited into the State Road Fund and the State Road Bond Fund. This chart shows the debt service that is currently owed and when it will be paid. The debt service has been fairly flat through 2026 and then drops in 2027 as the first and second lien debt related to Amendment 3, and the first issuance of the state appropriations mega project bonds are paid off. All current debt will be paid off in fiscal year 2033. As part of the annual debt management report, financial services includes several charts to demonstrate compliance with the Commission's debt management policy. The analysis considers the debt obligations compared to the debt limitation as specified in the Commission policy. This chart shows that the Amendment 3 debt is compliant. Here's a similar chart and analysis for the Focus on Bridge program. Remember, these bonds came with general revenue appropriations to pay for the debt service, and this debt will be paid off in 2027. This slide shows the compliance for the bonds issued for the Improve I-70 program. Again, debt service for these bonds will be paid by general revenue. The first I-70 bonds will be paid off in 2026. We still estimate that we will issue bonds to generate a little over $1.01 billion in bond proceeds for the Improve I-70 program. Additional compliance analysis will also be performed for the bonds issued to generate the $363.75 million of bond proceeds for the Forward 44 program. This chart shows compliance for all other debt. So debt obligations of the Commission not only include debt service on bonds, but also includes loan repayments, leases of 1 year or longer, and repayments to local entities for the accelerated program payments. Accelerated program payments is when a local entity uses their own funds to complete a project earlier than when it is programmed in the STIP. The STIP will then pay the local entity back when the funds become available. A little over 148 million of the Commission's bonds are callable, which means they could be paid off at any time. These the 148 million became callable in 2023, but will be paid off in 2025 and 2026. A make-call call would allow us to pay off the bonds early. However, we would still have to pay the interest to bondholders as if they held them to term. The remainder of the bonds are non-callable, which means they will be paid. We will hold them until they are paid off. Sometimes we get the question about who holds the Commission's bonds. This is the list of the top 10 bondholders of May. Most of the groups are institutions that are holding the Commission's bonds. Whether or not the Commission issues bonds is dependent on whether commissions exist and it makes sense to do so. Given that, the financial forecast that I presented to the Commission in January did include potential issuances of Amendment 3 bonds in 2026, 2028, and 2030. The forecast also included issuance of bonds for the Improve I-70 program in 2028 and 2030. 2026 and 2028. With the General Assembly passage and the Governor's approval of the Forward 44 program, we would anticipate bond issuances related to that program as well in the future. The Commission's ability to borrow funds for road and bridge projects is a great tool to have. Historically, this has allowed the Commission to make significant investments in state roads and bridges and will allow the Commission to do so again in the future. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brenda.
Mr. Chairman. Brenda, thank you for that excellent overview of our debt management program. It's obviously very complex and you made it very clear. I think as clear as it possibly could have been. Bond financing has become an important part of our arsenal of options, especially with these very large projects. So thank you and your team as well for your oversight and your diligence in maintaining all those compliance issues and policy ramifications at a high level, as well as in the details. Very much appreciated.
I will pass that on.
Commissioner Erdman.
Yeah, I echo that. I'm trying to keep this waterfall of issuances kind of in my head, which it gets more complicated. But if I understand correctly, because of our accelerated amortization on the I-70 bonds, the next time that we would be potentially seeking bond financing after the first tranche is paid off would be 2028?
2026.
2026.
Right now, the forecast that I presented in January had an issuance for the Improve I-70 program in 2026.
All right, and then the existing I-70 debt would be, on the first segment, would be finished by then?
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be paid off in 2026.
And was there a debt element to the Forward 44 program?
There is money, 363.75 million has been appropriated to be spent as bond proceeds. So there will be a debt component associated with the I-44. We have not had those discussions about the timing of that yet.
Well, I think the legislature, the governor certainly are aware, and the public should be aware that the accelerated amortization approach on I-70 is paying enormous dividends to the state of Missouri, particularly for the I-44 project. And I assume we'll apply kind of a similar approach to that if and when we move forward on that.
Correct. We'll do analysis to determine the best term for those bonds in the future.
And then equally interesting to me was what I thought a very creative methodology by which the state appropriated funds go into the account held by OA, and then as we obligate, that seemed, when first proposed, to be a very revolutionary, clever, creative idea. How's it working?
It's working great, and they actually replicated the same process for the Forward 44 program.
Okay, so people are recognizing it. Could you just remind everybody of the anticipated savings from our approach to the I-70 bonds?
I've got that.
Patrick's going to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. So the total savings is about, we're shaving from the original authorization year 13 to 20 off the original I-70 debt. That was $136 million a year, so $1.088 billion.
1.088 billion.
And the cash flow management that we are doing with the Accelerate, because we, very unusual, and really appreciate the commission's consideration of what was a very unusual proposal. With cash in an account, we borrowed first for the first project. And the savings along the way are significant to that. Essentially, the first issuance on I-70, the taxpayers of Missouri are going to make money because we're going to earn more in interest than we pay out in interest. Where originally, if we held to the original terms, that first $400 million approximately of debt, to rent that for 20 years would have been just south of $200 million. And the way we've structured it now, we're only going to pay $26 million in interest. And during that time, the money that we did not borrow that's in a cash account with Treasury, it's not accruing to MoDOT, it's the citizens' money, general revenue, that will earn approximately $40 million. So we're netting $14 million on the plan of finance for the first I-70 program.
When you say we, the state.
The state. I'm a citizen, so I like to say we.
Yeah.
But not MoDOT specifically.
But not MoDOT.
That's right. And that plan was offered up to the governor and to the General Assembly. And so that approximately $1.3 billion of savings and interest earnings, even if we discount to present value, is about $950 million of current day savings, well above what is being invested in I-44 and the $100 million of low volume roads. So effectively, we've paid, if we look at a 20-year basis, in the approach to financing here, which is very unique, we will have over a 20-year period paid for all of the I-44 investment and all 3 years of the low volume road investment at $100 million each. Really extraordinary effort, well executed by our team, well received by the markets. And consider that we will have paid off the first project on I-70 before we've completed the project. Pretty amazing. So
I just wanted to call attention to that because it's remarkable, it's amazing. And I don't know that the state understands generally how this financing is paying for future infrastructure. It's really, really tremendous.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Brenda, thank you again. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is an action item. Lance Taylor, Transportation Planning Director, will present the 2025 to 2029 statewide Transportation Improvement Program. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. I'm Lance Taylor, Planning Director. It's certainly my absolute honor today to present the 25 to 29 statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or the STIP. Transportation planning has the lead role on developing the STIP, but this is a MoDOT effort. This involves numerous divisions, all of the districts. It takes a tremendous amount of energy and effort to put together these numbers, to keep together the program so that we can move this forward. And from the TP team, Amy Binkley and the statewide programming group really shepherd us through this process, but it really is a total team effort. And I want to thank everybody that's had a hand in participating in this process and sharing in delivering this STIP. The STIP is one of the elements of the financial planning model here for MoDOT. That model is founded on the financial forecast. Once that is established and approved, we can figure out what's available for the operating budget and for the statewide transportation improvement program. It's really these documents working in concert that let us know what MoDOT has available to move transportation forward for Missouri. In Missouri, transportation planning is really focused on the planning framework. It's the award-winning, nationally recognized approach to partnering in transportation decision-making. It's a bottom-up, data-driven decision process that makes sure that the local voice is heard, that the needs that are lifted up and delivered and solutions delivered are impactful to each region. It was humbling to hear such eloquent and positive words about that process from many of you today. That framework is relying upon our planning partners around the state, metropolitan planning organizations and the regional planning commissions. These entities really have a connection with the local input. They're the ones that work with the volunteers that are lifting up the needs in each community. And it's really with their support that we're able to deliver the STIP. This graph here lays out the contractor awards over the next 5 years. And as you can see, there's variability, and that variability is really driven by the timing and the cost of our major projects around the state. From that, we can put together the funding distribution. The funding distribution is based on the total available funds and the commission-approved funding distribution formula. And as you can see here, it really highlights our asset management first approach here in Missouri. So this is the big news. In total, the 25 to 29 statewide transportation improvement program is $14.6 billion. If you think of it as a printed STIP has about 600 pages, this is $24.33 million a page. And it includes 1,424 road and bridge projects. I hope I come off excited. I feel great honor in being able to present that information. In looking at the traditional funds within the first 3 years of the STIP, you'll see that about 83% of those funds are dedicated to asset management. Again, re-emphasizing our asset management first approach. And it will address about 11,700 lane miles of pavement throughout the state and about 1,000 bridges. And again, this is just the first 3 years. Whenever we do a new STIP, we like to look at and see how it compares to the previous STIP and what things have changed from version to version. From the last STIP to this STIP, the existing project costs have increased about $291 million or 8.4%. 4.3% of that is inflation, just the cost pressures on project elements. And then about 4.1% of that is enhancements, improvements, details that the engineering advancements lay out and just causes element increases.
Lance, if I might right there, this is an important point, I think, for the commission. Those scope enhancements, I want to compliment your team and the whole department. This is an incorporation of our SAFER document. Much of the scope change was within a year's time, reflection of safety improvements on our projects. Our team really embraced this approach that was brought forward in the last couple of years, and it was really extraordinary. The return on investment and safety is added to virtually every project in this STIP, and it's really an extraordinary effort. So thank you for that.
Thank you. As these are commitments, from projects that are put in the STIP, we look at what kind of schedule adjustments have occurred, and from the previous to this iteration, there's 216 projects had some form of movement. So most of those things are related to just as from one year to the next, making sure that the money works out, and then accommodating any issues with the anticipated schedule of those projects. We added about 354 projects to the STIP, the vast majority of which are asset management. And then we deleted 21 projects. Those are primarily related with incorporating previous STIP projects into the improved I-70 plan. Speaking of I-70, the only remaining project from the 2023 General Assembly designated funding initiatives is the I-70 Improved Program. It's $2.4 billion remaining. That original $2.8 billion was anticipated to address 703 lane miles of existing pavement and 16 bridges. So with the 2024 General Assembly designated funding initiatives, we are very fortunate again to have an impactful investment into the transportation system, and those funds totaled over $805 million that were incorporated into the STIP. I-44 alone was $578 million. That includes $166 million for Springfield improvements in Greene County, $175 million for phase 2 and 3 of the Fidelity Interchange in Joplin. It includes several tier 2 and 3 high priority unfunded need asset management focused projects along the corridor, including pavement improvements in St. Louis, Franklin County, Phelps County, Laclede, Lawrence, and Newton counties across the state. It includes a major investment across that corridor. There is about $59 million of that $578 million that is currently not programmed, and it is, it allows us an opportunity to look at the highest and best use for those funds, to work with the planning process, work with the environmental document that is underway to determine the best usage. Additionally, there was several additional projects around the state: US 67, US 65, I-29, I-35, and US 169 in Kansas City, I-49, and Route 58. Again, significant projects that will improve transportation in those regions. There was also another investment of $100 million to the Rural Roads Program, $19 million in multimodal projects, about $10 million in off-system projects, and then just a few additional. All in all, we're just grateful and thankful for the investment and the trust that the General Assembly has that we will use these funds to improve transportation around the state. The STIP always includes the multimodal element, and as you can see here, it includes $1.1 billion worth of funding, or about $220 million a year across the programs. This graph really illustrates over the last 5 previous years, the growth in these programs over time. So a significant investment statewide. These are funds that are not from Road and Bridge, they're from federal pass-through designated funds, those types. It also includes the maintenance and operation plans for the districts. This is really where it lays out the anticipated work in each region so folks can understand not only what contract work is going to occur, but also what the region's operation and maintenance folks are going to accomplish. Between the draft and the final STIP, we do a comment period and we release and publicize the draft STIP. We received 107 total comments. 64 of those were related to requesting additional road and bridge needs. Of those 64, 35 were related to routes 19 and 32 in Salem, in the Dent County area. 12 were related to North 40 Drive West in St. Louis. 10 on Route 150 in KC, and those last 2 were primarily requests for resurfacing. There were 8 comments that either offered support or thanked MoDOT. There was in fact one thank you, but I wanted to throw that in too. So 5 that related to project implementation, some changes they would like to see or improvements they'd like to see incorporated in existing projects. 5 that were related to customer service, trees down, cones in the road, those type of things. 5 were identifying additional locations that have traffic concerns. 4 were for off-state system needs, specifically Roanna Lane in St. Louis. 3 just wanted additional information, just taking the opportunity for that comment period to get them information unrelated to the STIP. And then 1 was a typographical error that we corrected. With the final to the draft, we'd like to highlight any of the changes that were made. There were 47 major changes, all of these related to the General Assembly designated and funded projects, 38 for Road and Bridge, 2 for off-system, 7 for multimodal needs around the state. And then, of course, we had several minor changes. These are just cleaning up language and verbiage, typos and additional things that we caught as we went through the document throughout this time period. And that closes out my presentation of the STIP. And at this time, I would ask you to approve the 25 to 29 STIP and certify our planning process as it was carried out in accordance with 23 CFR 450.220. I would also ask that you delegate authority to the Deputy Director, Chief Engineer, to add scoping, hardship, right-of-way purchases, and urgent or emergency projects, and to make fiscally constrained revisions to the STIP. Additionally, I would ask that you approve a continuation of the planning process as we work to get input and concurrence on the General Assembly designated and funded projects with our planning partners, just to kind of close the loop on those as well. And with that, I would answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Slay?
I have a comment. First, I want to just thank you and your team for all your work. I had served on our local planning agency for 22 years in the city of St. Louis, St. Louis region, and have some familiarity with all the work that's done on the local level to put together a plan, transportation plan for an area. I couldn't imagine the work that's done. I mean, we were just, we relied on the engineers and the experts in coming up with the plan. And, we voted on things, but in the end, the hard work's done right here at MoDOT with you and your team. And it does take a tremendous amount of work and challenges, and there's a lot of political things going on as well. But I certainly have a great deal of appreciation for your work and the work of your team, and I want to thank you for that. We certainly appreciate not only the work that you do, but the work that's done at the local level with the planning agencies, which are very, very important. I just wanted to make that as a part of the record that this board is very, very, proud of the work you do, and we certainly appreciate the hard work, the talent, and the professionalism that you and the team present every day in representing the organization. And it's hard to believe that we're at, what is it, over $15 billion now. It's unbelievable. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'll pass on those comments.
Commissioner Erdman?
Yeah, in my report on the legislative committee, I observed that the governor took his budget actions on June 28th. Looking at my calendar, we had a 4th of July holiday during that period. And when I counted up the actual working days, I came up with 6 working days between the day the governor announced his withholds, vetoes, and today, 6 working days. And my understanding is that in that short time, the department has analyzed the reductions, vetoes, as such, and adjusted the STIP we're about to vote on to reflect those actions, which includes, in some cases, an I-44, some reallocations, and done so in consultation and all of that. That is a pretty remarkable thing when you think about that being only 6 days ago. And my understanding is that this STIP that we're about to consider and vote on includes the review of those actions.
It does. And, I was a little panicked, but Anthony was steadfast and stuck around, and we got it done. So I do appreciate
You might have had a few more than 6 days, I guess. Even. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Director?
Yeah, it's stated well already, but extraordinary effort. And thanks, Commissioner Erdman, for recognizing that, because everyone, you wouldn't believe the looks on people's faces the last several days when I showed up in their office. Like, not again, not another change, please. We've got to lock this thing down. But I also want to commend, I would say, the effort of the governor's office and his team, Aaron Willard, namely. They were very engaged in this process. They wanted to communicate clearly what their expectations were with regard to the veto, and concerned that we made sure that we had the full environmental information at our ready to make additional decisions in the future. And I was really impressed with their efforts here. And they helped us meet this deadline.
Thank you, Director. Okay, so do we have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation by Lance?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the $14.6 billion recommendation by Lance.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Lance. Okay, switching gears, we're moving into public comment period. Members of the public who did not schedule a presentation before the commission may speak to the commission on transportation-related issues by having signed in at the registration desk by 9:30 a.m. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person, 10 minutes per subject. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody signed up? No comments today. Okay. So moving on. Typically, at the end of each meeting, we like to provide each commission member the opportunity to share any concerns or comments they may have. Today, I will start with Commissioner Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I just want to say we have some great presentations today. Michelle, Central District, you guys have got a lot going on. The whole team does, but it's exciting to see all the work and from 70 to 44. Brian, I always enjoy your reports on bridges, and we're gaining on them. Appreciate it, your team. I want to thank Representative Lisa Thomas for being here today and not only being here for the Commission for Coffee, but spending the day and listening to what we do. I really appreciate it. Makes me proud that you're my rep when I'm in Morgan County or Camden County. But anyway, huge step. I mean, it's so exciting to be sitting here compared to where we were back in 2015. And it's just an exciting time to be MoDOT, to be in Missouri. And thanks for all the people that worked on this. It wasn't just one or two, it was the whole group.
Team effort.
As Commissioner Erdman said, the last 6 days to see them really roll, it's exciting. So great facility, great day. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe, buckle up, phone down.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Hageman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too want to thank you, Representative, for joining us today. And I also really want to appreciate the trust that the legislature has put into this commission and department in moving forward on some of this infrastructure that's so needed around the state. I've always thought that legislators kind of know what's needed in their areas better as well as anyone, and that we ought to listen to their voice. And if they're willing to step up and help fund these things, it's even that much greater. We can stretch our money and do that much more for all the roads in the state of Missouri. So again, on behalf of the legislature, thank you for being here, working with the governor, working with us in the effort to improve the roads, bridges, and transportation as a whole in the state. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate all the work that the staff put in, and as Warren identified, the timeline, that was pretty compressed, and I had to work pretty hard to do that. It's understood and appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hageman. Commissioner Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just make the comment that there's been so much covered in this meeting, unprecedented commitment to the future of transportation across Missouri. And the opportunity before us is hard to describe at this point. But the sense of urgency that we can feel in this room, the sense of urgency and purpose is amazing. And the skill set shared among all the employees of the enterprise, combining that with the opportunity and the urgency can really take us to a new place. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that's being done here. And I want to thank everyone. I would echo all these comments as well. It's clearly a team effort and one that is just remarkable.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Commissioner Slay.
Yes, just wanted to reiterate a comment that or kind of expand a little bit on it, what I mentioned before. I'm continually impressed and certainly impressed with the talent, the depth of talent, the professionalism, the commitment of the MoDOT team. And it's the reason why there's so many good things going on in transportation in Missouri is because of the group that's right here in this room. And I just want to thank you all for your continued talent, professionalism, commitment, and certainly want to thank the legislature as well for all the work you all do on a day-to-day basis to keep the state moving. And we appreciate your support of us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Slay. Commissioner Erdman.
Yeah, well, thank you. Having just voted for an historic and largest ever 5-year capital plan, I'm tempted to talk about something really big, but instead I'm going to take my limited time, talk about something really small, but really important. I want to encourage Michelle, you and Danny to do everything you can to help the local people here in Camden County find a solution for the westbound 54 to northbound Highway 5 problem. And I know the representative's nodding her head. There are more than one way to skin a cat. And I hope you can find, I know there are meetings taking place, and since we're here in Camden County, I want to encourage you to think outside the box. And I'm hoping that you might bring back to us a win on that in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman. Well, that leaves me. So to wrap it up, great meeting. Had a lot of good dialogue back and forth. Passing a $14.6 billion STIP is really a game changer. And this group that we have to deliver that for Missourians, we couldn't handpick a better group to do that. This group of professionals that we have within the enterprise has all of the skill sets necessary to deliver this and to make us proud to be Missourians. So it's an exciting time to, just over a short 4-year period of me being on the commission, the STIP has tripled in that time frame. And that's amazing. And it shows that as Missourians, we are appreciative of the investments that have been made in the past. We're aware that those investments have to continue if we want to continue winning, if we want to continue being competitive in Missouri. And it shows that we're serious about having the infrastructure necessary for Missouri to win and for Missouri to move forward. So it's an extremely exciting time. It's a blessing to get to sit here each month and provide input, provide some direction on the items that are important to the state. So to wrap this up, just really appreciate everybody in this room, the legislators throughout the state, and the leadership we have within this state. It's absolutely tremendous. So we're very fortunate at a time that's that, as a country, that we're not on as solid not on as solid of a foundation as we are here in Missouri. It makes me proud to be a Missourian. So before we adjourn, I want to take note that the next meeting is scheduled for August 7th, 2024 in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Do we have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.